Good morning, hello and welcome to IrelandAM on Virgin Media 1.
Yes, it is Monday, the 30th of September. We've got a busy old show coming your way.
We do indeed. We're going to get a roundup of all the drama in the world of sport. We'll be talking about Ireland's win against the New Zealand Black Ferns in a little while.
And the rugby, well done to them. At 7:35, we're going to discuss the recent arrest of American rapper and record producer Sean Diddy Combs.
It's unbelievable. All weekend I've been chatting to everyone about this, though. Groups are on fire, so we'll have it all for you in just a little while. And from entomologist to crusher of dreams, we're going to be talking to Darragh "The Menace" Ennis from The Chase. That's coming up at 8:15 this morning.
Alan, what else we got?
Well, Tommy, do you know what? Normally, you remember this?
Oh, this is my theme tune now.
Here we go.
Yeah. Normally I'm the one and only, yeah. But this morning, I'm giving up the title as we're going to be speaking to the original one and only. Yes, Chesney Hawkes is going to join us a little later on.
Look at that pose. Can you do that pose?
Have you seen his new music video?
The new music video.
Saltburn.
I'm telling you.
Can you get up and do that pose?
I'll do it later.
Will you, yeah?
Now, Derek is back with us from the sun to the rain this morning. Good morning, Derek.
Yes, good morning, Al. I'm back from Turkey. Actually had a lovely time, and following all that stormy action, I saw plenty of it yesterday down through the southeast. It looks like a wet start to the northwest this morning, but it is drying out, so an improving picture out there. You'll be glad to hear for the last day of September. Now we're down here in Dublin Port this morning. The brand new Tolka F Street Greenway is up and running. 2.6 kilometres, 5k if you're doing it back and forth. It's a brand new space that's opened up here down on this side of the city. Great for walking, cycling, for running as well. We're going to be catching up with some of the members from Clontarf Athletic Club, so that's all to come right across the board. I'm feeling quite chilly this morning. It was 30 degrees in Istanbul yesterday.
Well, it didn't look as pretty as that, Derek. That looks gorgeous behind you, doesn't it? Wow.
We've been waiting for a long time.
Gorgeous.
All the routes. So looking forward to seeing more of it a little bit later on. Thank you, Derek.
Good stuff, Derek. We'll catch up with you a little bit later on. Keep the jacket on.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media 1.
Thank you, Hannah Guramila. Broadcasting live here from Dublin Port down here this morning. Coming up a little bit later on, we're off to explore the brand new Greenway here with some of the members of Clontarf Running Club. So that's all to come live at 8:45, so do stay with us for that. Now, Alan Fraser with us on cameras this morning. We're on to the last day of September, so let's take a look weather-wise at how it's shaping up and following all that stormy action. And it was pretty bad yesterday, especially through the southeastern corner of the country. It's in a much more improved and much more set to start out there this morning, albeit we are seeing plenty of heavy rain up around the northwest, so right through parts of Donegal into North Mayo, Sligo, Leitrim, Roscommon, in through parts of Fermanagh as well. A wet start up there in that corner of the country, but elsewhere holding a lot drier now in that northerly airflow. Now right across today, in fact, it will improve, so any showers we're seeing at the moment, especially to the northwest, will fade a bit by bit. It is a return to drier and brighter weather. So nice sunshine, although a struggle in terms of those values. Moderate to locally fresh northwesterly winds there in the driving seat right across the day, with top temps of around 11 to 16 degrees. Into tonight then, holding mainly dry across the island, good clear spells, so it is an improving picture as we work our way tonight into those early morning hours as we hit the 1st of October into your Tuesday, with overnight lows back to 6 to 9 degrees. So that's how it's shaping up here at the moment. We'll be back again live at 7:35. We'll see you then.
You need to be chilled to handle Irish weather. That's why Chill sponsor weather updates on Virgin Media 1.
Now, coming up, we're going to discuss the stories making the headlines in today's papers.
Yes, lots more. So, lots to discuss after this short break.
Welcome back. It's time now to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. The headline there, budget bonanza worth €2 billion planned for households. A bumper package aimed at helping households with the increased cost of living is being finalised by the government as it prepares a giveaway budget in advance of a general election.
The Irish Independent and the Examiner lead with the same story. The Examiner stating final talks over €2 billion cost of living aid. Across the board, social welfare increases of at least €10, 2 double child benefit payments before Christmas, and an extension of the Help to Buy scheme will form part of a bumper pre-election budget tomorrow.
Middle-income families to get a €3,000 budget boost. One senior source close to the heart of final negotiations said, "Our focus is on how many €1,000 we can put back into the pockets of Middle Ireland." That's what the Irish Daily Mail says today.
The Star leads with "Nothing matters, Jerry, when you're free." A video of a jubilant Jerry the Monk hut singing about freedom has emerged as his arch rivals in the Kinahan cartel suffer blow after blow.
The Sun's headline is Dublin's Fear City. It states that brazen dealers linked to the Hutch mob are flooding Dublin streets with heroin and cocaine in plain sight.
The Mirror's front page leads with McEntee home bomb threat. Justice Minister Helen McEntee has again been targeted in a hoax bomb threat.
The Herald's front page also goes with that story. McEntee target of bomb threat. It continues to say Gardaí are working to establish the source of a phone call claiming a bomb had been placed at the home of Justice Minister Helen McEntee. Now, joining us for that story and everything else this morning is Lorcan Nyan from the Communications Clinic. Good morning, Lorcan. We will start with, basically, crime in Ireland is on an awful lot of the front pages. We'll start with Minister for Justice Helen McEntee.
Yeah, I mean, crime is, I suppose, it is a constant story, and it does feel like it's rising, whether it is or it isn't. And look, there is that I suppose, horrible story and very, very important story in terms of the wider democracy of Ireland, that there's been another bomb threat on Helen McEntee's home. Obviously, young children means it needs to get evacuated, etc. They have to therefore bring in the dogs, sniff it through. It's really shocking. So look, they're attempting to find the source of it. We've obviously had it on the Taoiseach's house as well in the recent past. The implications seem to be that these are calls that are made to the Samaritans via Clover Hill. That seems to be the implication that it's somebody who's in Clover Hill who they're able to obviously call the Samaritans, because they might need to call the Samaritans, and then within that they then make bomb threats or say that they've heard about bomb threats coming through. So look, thus far they have been hoaxes until this stage, but I don't think that changes the worry that you might have, the terror that you might have, and I suppose the impact on the lives. And look, it's often said, but the very fact that kind of, I suppose, in Ireland our politicians are accessible, they tend to be local, they tend to be local TDs, you tend to be able to actually go up and talk to them.
That's the beauty of it.
I mean, that's and it really helps, I think, keep our politics grounded. It helps keep politicians linked to what the people actually want, what they might be saying, stops them falling into, I mean, even social media bubbles, which we've seen politicians across Europe and US believe this reality you see online. You need to be able to keep politicians being able to have their normal family lives, drop the kids, collect the kids, have their lives, so you just have to react to it very, very strongly and track down who is doing it.
And if we want to have more and more people getting into politics, representing the views that we want or certain people want, who would want to go into politics if you've got a young family and this is going on? So that's just frightening, and it's front of a lot of the papers this morning.
But she has tackled knife crime.
Wider than that, it would be one of the promises that Simon Harris said he was going to be stronger on knife crime, and it was an issue that needed to be solved with. So they've managed to get that over the line, and tougher sentences for those who are carrying knives to intimidate or with intent to harm with a knife. That the maximum sentence is increased from 7 years up to 10 years. So there has been an increase in the amount of knives seized in Ireland over the last 10 years.
60% rise.
Gone up by 60% in 10 years. I suppose to give people an idea of the scale of it, there is 20 incidences of people who were injured but with knife crime in hospitals in Ireland. 200, I should say.
200, yeah.
200.
Yeah.
So, not one every day, but also not insignificant.
We don't want to be following London, where it's an epidemic.
And I think that's exactly what people are trying to get ahead of here, just across the board, which is that what has happened in not just London, but kind of in cities across the UK, is that knife crime has become really, really regular, really, really normalised, and it probably got out of hand before you could tackle it.
Yeah.
This is an attempt here now to say, right, we have to tackle this early, because obviously if it gets out of hand, knives are so easily accessible that you have to be able to clamp down on it early.
Absolutely.
So this is an attempt to do that, as well as to be seen to be hard on.
I don't think anyone would be against that. 0896 111 111. They've increased sentences there. And there was one story that I think it happened last week, and so many people have been talking about it, and it is a terrifying example of the sort of crime that's happening in Ireland. And this is 8 being arrested, 7 men and 1 teenager, after the torture of a woman in Dublin. What happened here, Norm?
Yeah, and look, I think most people will be aware of the story because it is genuinely so shocking. It's one of those ones you almost feel viscerally. But yeah, look, the guards have announced that eight have been arrested. It was in an apartment in North Dublin. It's a woman who was homeless. She was, I suppose, effectively kidnapped, tortured. There's an idea that maybe there was a hammer that was heated. So she's got kind of severe burns. A broken jaw is one of the injuries that she may have had. Guards just happened to be in the same block on a drugs bust. They heard what was happening and therefore they were able to stop it. But after hours and hours and hours.
So this is what we're saying. They weren't going in. No one had rung them about this. They were going in on a different drug range in a different flat, and they heard something and happened upon the torture of a woman by 8 people.
They happened to be there. Yeah. So look, at least it means that the 8 people have all been caught, have been arrested, detained, etc. But look, and it's all linked up into the drug issue in Dublin, which you need to trace all the way along from source right through to user. I mean, it's all tied up into that, and that's why this was happening, was information around drugs. But look, there was somebody under 18 involved in this as well. Like, so I mean, it's shocking that at that young age, you can already be so far gone that you're involved with 7 other men. One of them was in his 50s in torturing a woman.
Let's move on to another story going across Europe. So an Austrian far-right party is set for an election victory.
Yeah, sorry if I didn't brighten your Mondays enough there.
We're going to get to something happy.
Seems to be happening across Europe. There's definitely this far-right trend is absolutely, this wave is continuing.
It's not new now. It's not potential. It's not growing. It is here. I mean, the far-right there, the far-right government is in charge in Italy. They're rising, in France. The Vox party in Spain is quite strong, and now in Austria you've got the FPO. They're the Austrian Independence Party. They were founded by 2 former SS members, one of whom their founder member was like a Nazi in 1928 in Austria. So like an early member of the Nazi Party. They obviously now say we're no longer like that anymore. But let's have a look at their policies. Their policies talk about re-migration, and they talk very, very strongly about that they want to keep Austria homogenous. So I mean, they're very, very anti any form of immigration. They want to end the legal protection for asylum seekers coming in. What's particularly, or I suppose maybe is a newly controversial about this crew, is that they are very, very anti the support of Ukraine. So they don't want any European sport. They don't want to support it either. So they have won the election. They've won 28, 29%. I think the far right across Europe just has about 30 to 40% support in most places now.
Will they go into government though?
It appears like the 3 mainstream parties are saying no.
They're going to block them.
We won't deal with that we
won't. It's a bit like what happened in France.
Similar to what happened in France. Now look, there might be a little bit of wriggle room with the current government party there. That's not sure. So I could be coming back in 3 days' time and saying we do have the FPO in government in Austria.
Because it did look like they might be getting in.
But right now, the existing parties, and I think the Ukraine issue is one of the reasons for that, but it is happening across Europe, and it's the same. It's immigration, it's Ukraine, and it's inflation. Look over the US presidential election. What are the 3 things that are driving Donald Trump? Support for Ukraine, immigration and inflation. So it's the same issues, and I suppose delivery is the only answer.
Let's move back to a story close to home here as well. So the cataract bus, we've heard a little bit about this in times gone by. So it looks like the costs are going to be higher. So this is people who want cataract eye surgery from West Cork, a lot of them as well, isn't it? The bus goes up to Belfast, gets the surgery and is done within 24 hours or in 1 day. Yeah,
and I think it's always been kind of a symbolic example of failures in the health service that people have to drive the 10 hours, 11 hours from Cork up to Belfast to get the 20-minute surgery done. Michael Healy and Danny Healy-Ray would have started this from Kerry initially, started organising the buses. It's now coming from Cork. So there's still a huge amount of people going up to get it done. But the HSE has changed the reimbursement. So you can go to the north and get reimbursed via the HSE. So it's done in Belfast, but the HSE still pay for it. Yeah. They have now reduced the amount they're going to reimburse because I think they're saying they've looked at it and said, here's what it actually costs. Right. And so we are still reimbursing you the cost of it. But they have reduced it down. But obviously, Michael Collins, the Independent TD, is saying, no, this means elderly people won't be able to get it done. People won't be able to get the surgery. What the HSE are saying is that we are still reimbursing the cost of it. It's just that cost of it isn't what we thought that it was. But I suppose there's also the
So the government are obviously having to pay through the nose for it, but at the same time, so many people were getting this. Like, this was an amazing service that was going on.
Yeah.
Where now they're just going to have to join the waiting list, or are they going to still be able to go to Belfast and just have to fund it a bit?
They can still go. It's just the funding that the reimbursement they're getting back for it is different.
Won't be the same.
At this point, it's one of these ones where there's two conflicting stories telling you two different things. So it's hard to know. Actually,
it's hard to know because it was 2,000 reduced to 1,150, and they are saying, the government are saying, this is how much it actually costs to get it done in Belfast.
Yeah, apparently so. Yeah.
It's not 2,000.
Yeah.
We were giving.
But
too
it
much
is.
money.
Look, I think there's a lot of time that we look at elections come and people, maybe people like myself on media centres, I wonder what's behind the independent vote. I wonder why the independents are rising so much. The local politician. This is why.
Yeah.
Because it's the independent entities are organising this. They're the ones doing it. They're pulling people together. They're making sure. And cataract surgery takes 20 minutes, but you can't see and then you can't see. So, I mean, like, it's a pretty...
And you can't get it done. You can't get into a hospital in Ireland.
You're waiting for 6 months, 9 months, 12 months to get it done. If you can't see, you can't drive. If you can't drive, a lot of these people in the PCR, they couldn't go to work. And because of Michael Collins or Danny Healy-Rae or Jack Healy-Rae, you're able to do that. So, delivery is the answer in a lot of these situations.
0896 111 111 to get in contact on that story in relation to the cataract surgery if you know someone who has been involved in it.
Yeah, absolutely. Very interesting. Lorcan Nine from the Communications Clinic, thank you so much for that.
Thank you, Lorcan. Cheers. Lots more to come on the show, including our sports roundup. That's coming up at 7:45.
Join us after this short break.
Welcome back to IrelandAM. On September the 16th, Sean Combs, he's better known as the rapper Puff Daddy, he was arrested on charges related to sex trafficking, drug possession and firearm offences. Since then, there has been renewed interest in his past actions and just the amount of famous celebrities who are associated with him.
Major celebrities joining us now to talk about the allegations against P. Diddy is podcaster and co-host of the Creep Dive podcast, Cassie Delaney. Good morning.
Morning, Cassie.
So fill us in for people who don't know, what are the allegations against him?
Okay, so there's a couple of separate things that are happening here. The arrest is on these firearm offences, racketeering and transport for prostitution. So like sex trafficking crimes, really heinous stuff. He's facing up to life imprisonment for racketeering alone. And then obviously the sex trafficking
What does that mean, racketeering? Like, because we think of mobsters, we're thinking about John Dillinger, you know what I mean?
It's like unjust business practices, so like fraud and things like that. So I think these are pertaining to wider stuff, but probably connected to the trafficking claims as well. So basically the whole allegations are that P. Diddy or Sean Combs, I think we should drop the P. Diddy.
Let's stop it now.
Yeah,
it's got really bad connotations.
Yeah, so he has been organising these parties and essentially orgies for years for the elite. And this has all come out now. The allegations are that he was filming them, that there was massive orgies taking places in his house in Beverly Hills, and that he had filmed a lot of these people participating in these orgies.
Would you say with this racketeering and everything, did he think he was so big that nobody could get him? Was this the thing behind this? He was massive in the music industry.
Yeah, this is. So he was absolutely huge, like Bad Boy Records. He's one of the greatest producers. He's worked with the likes of Mary J. Blige, Usher, Jay-Z, everybody throughout the years. So he is that elite of the elite in the music industry. And yeah, I mean, he had so much money, he has so much support around him, and he has the best lawyers on hand. So he probably did think that he was untouchable. And then the sheer fact that there were so many other people involved in this as well, that it kind of became a, well, if you want me, you're going to have to
I'll bring everyone down with me type of thing.
The thing with this is, he's a rags to riches story where, he came from nothing and next thing he goes off and sets up Bad Boy Records. He becomes a billionaire producer. But along the way in the 90s, there would have been that taint of violence, gun violence, East Coast versus West Coast. Yeah. But next thing he becomes legitimate. He's legitimised by the fashion Illuminati, by the media Illuminati. He's amazing. So incredibly powerful. But the thing is, he became so fancy, like Anna Wintour, all those people. His white parties, tell us a bit about those.
So the white parties used to take place in the Hamptons between 1999 and 2008. So anyone you can think of who was famous in the early noughties would have been seen at these white parties. So you've got like Leonardo DiCaprio, Jennifer Lopez, of course, who was in a relationship with at one point as well. The Kardashians, there's a clip of them talking about being at these white parties. Ashton Kutcher, oddly enough, was like one of the big characters at these white parties. So anyone was there. And these white parties were that kind of theme where he would bring people from his home life and introduce them to the elite of society. So he said...
Were these the freak-offs that we were calling them? Were they different?
No, so the freak-offs were separate. So we don't know whether the freak-offs, as they're called, happened within the white parties or something outside of it. We know the white parties had to stop because there was too many complaints from neighbours and they couldn't get the licences to run parties. The freak-offs then that are mentioned in this indictment are these kind of gatherings of people that went on for days, where drugs were provided, where rooms for sex were provided, where sex workers were provided by P. Diddy. And a lot of the allegations say that he coerced and drugged people into partaking in these
Now, this is what's
parties.
important, because if people are doing stuff of their own volition, that's what they do. When drugs are involved, obviously that is illegal. But there were pictures out there. I remember seeing these pictures of P. Diddy's white parties and naked women being on tables, but the food was served off their bodies, right? These were things that was out in the open. We all saw it. It was weird, but that's what these people do. But there is a thing about coercion here and drugging of women.
Yes, so there's a lot of this,
and even
since this indictment, and obviously if we can reference back to November of last year and the video emerged of him assaulting Cassie in a hallway in a hotel, CNN released that was his ex-girlfriend, right? So that is a separate offence to this indictment that is going on now. But since these allegations have been brought forward, a number of women have come forward to say that Puff Daddy either sexually assaulted them, raped them, or coerce them into participating in sex.
And
so there's up to 50 victims in this indictment.
But, like, the thing was, people knew about these parties. He would go on chat shows and brag about these parties.
Yeah.
We have a little clip of him here on Conan O'Brien's show. Like, this is years ago. But, like, you just couldn't get away with this now.
Watch Conan's face.
Just watch this now. Have a look at this.
A lot of ladies drink water at parties. They just, you know, so you have, if you don't have what they need, they're going to leave.
Right.
Got to keep them there.
Right.
You need locks on the doors.
Okay, this is sounding kind of dangerous now.
It's a little kinky, but you know, rock with me. But just check it out. You need a lot of heat. A lot of heat. Yeah.
Heat. You mean that physically the place has to be hot?
You don't have no air conditioning.
No air conditioning.
No.
Why is that?
Heat affects the alcohol, and it also affects, like, you know, everybody gets a little bit more comfortable and loose. Builds up a nice little sweat.
This goes on, you can see that Conan O'Brien just going, no, this is actually getting really weird now.
Yeah.
But we're all looking back at old clips of Sean Combs, and he was just openly saying things that were like, this sounds wrong.
Locks on doors.
Yeah, and like, that's to have a knowledge of that kind of stuff, that, you know, heat affects the alcohol in your body. Like, that's a really weird
Where everybody
fact
gets
to
looser,
know
takes their clothes off type of thing,
it's innocuous. But, yeah, and like, there's other clips that have emerged. Ashton Kutcher was on an episode of Hot Ones, and he was asked about these white parties, and he said, oh, I can't talk about that one. I'm cycling through the memories. I can't mention that one. There's a clip from Khloe Kardashian on the Kardashians talking about how she was at one of the parties and she turns around to Kourtney and she says, oh, everyone was naked. You would have loved it. Like, it is kind of, is it one of those open secrets?
That's fair enough.
Again, that's fine.
If everyone's consenting,
consensual.
if everyone's consenting and there's people naked running around, that's fine. That's okay. Well, for a lot of people, that wouldn't be okay. But at least people are consenting like that. Like, so these are A-lister celebrities who are involved in this.
Yes.
Are there a lot of nervous people in Hollywood and LA at the moment going, are we going to be named in this? Were we there? And is he going to bring them all down?
Absolutely. I don't know if he's going to bring them all down. I mean, there has been links now drawn to kind of, they're calling him Epstein. They're saying that he was as bad
Jeffrey
as
Epstein,
Jeffrey
former
Epstein.
financier who died in prison after it was found that he was trafficking. Well, he was on charges of that. Nothing was proven because he died beforehand.
A similar story. So, yeah, I don't know whether he's going to bring people down. I don't think it's going to die out. I think there's going to be a lot of people who have to come forward and make statements. We're waiting for statements from the likes of Jay-Z and Beyonce at the moment because they were at the parties. And there's a lot of rumours around this and the indictment and the charges. So if we stick to just the charges...
So he is in prison at the moment. He's not going to be let out.
No, he was denied bail. So his team went forth and put forward a $50 million bail. But because I think he's facing life imprisonment here and he has so many resources, he's obviously a flight risk. So that bail was denied and he's going to sit in prison until the trial. No date has been set for the trial yet, so we don't know how long he's going to be in there.
Could you imagine that trial? It is going to be, there'll be just everywhere.
Will it make to it his? Just one final thing, because obviously there's an awful lot, and there's illegality at the heart of all of this. Kim Porter is his ex.
Yes.
She was around for years. They've got many children together. He was going out with people in between this. There is apparently a book
So there is
You're
a
saying
book.
the leaks, some of the leaks have
Kim
come from this
Porter,
book.
She is dead.
She died suspiciously at 47 years of age of pneumonia. That's all I'll say on that one, right?
Yeah.
She was working on a tell-all book before her death, and that book, a 60-page book, was released on Amazon last week, supposedly from her friends. Now, her family have come out to deny that that was her book, but there are a lot of stories in that book that tie into things that have happened here in this indictment, and a lot of celebrities that have been named in that book for doing things.
Have they been named in the book?
Yes.
They have?
Yes. A lot of them have been named. I'm not going to, I can't.
We can't. But they have been named and it's out there.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, so
they're big ones.
They are quite big names. I'm sure that this is going to rumble on for quite a long time because it draws in so many other things. And when it comes to the world of celebrity, people are obsessed.
Obsessed with it.
Might be talking about it on the Creep Dive. Loads and loads and loads. You have loads. Thank you so much, Cassie Delaney. Thanks a million.
Thank
Cheers.
you. We're going to take a short break. We'll be back here very soon.
Hello, you're very welcome back to IrelandAM. Let's have a look at what's coming up.
Yes, now he may have left the science lab for the glitz and glam of TV, but chaser Darragh Ennis is still a scientist at heart. He's going to tell us all about his new book. That's coming up at 8:15 this morning.
Another book that everyone has been waiting for, Sally Rooney's Intermezzo. Hit bookshops last week. Ciara King from our book club is going to let us know what she thinks at 9:20. Thumbs up beside me here anyway.
Also have the new one from Richard Osman as well. You know, he does absolutely everything. We'll be chatting about that. And 33 years on from his debut single that shot him to fame, Chesney Hawkes, he is set to release a brand new song, guys. He's going to be telling us all about it later in the show, but I think Tommy really wants to get the heart of the video. you like the video to this song,
Barry
do you?
Keoghan, Saltburn vibes, yeah.
There's a lot of...
not hiding much.
He's not hiding anything,
We'll be asking about that a little bit later on. Now, Anne, in the kitchen, tell us we don't have sausages in the kitchen this morning.
Lara's here with us this morning. Good morning to you. How are you? So what are you going to be cooking for us later on?
Today I'm going to be making a pancetta and gnocchi bake with some harissa, mozzarella.
Oh, a bake? Does that mean goes in the oven?
It's going to go in the oven.
Oh,
but you could leave the mozzarella off and,
So
just
nice.
Quick and easy dinner.
A nice top on it then when it goes in the oven.
Nice and bubbly and melty.
Love it. Looking forward to that. Now let's check in with Derek because he's down in Dublin at the new Port Greenway. Good morning to you, Derek.
Yes, good morning. Gnocchi bake, Michael. How's that sound? Gnocchi bake. Delicious.
A little early for that now.
Never too early. Anyway, Michael McKenna is with us from the Dublin Port Company. Michael, the brand new Greenway. I'm very excited about this. It's up and running and it's open.
It's fantastic that it's been delivered now. It's available to the people to come down, have a walk, have a cycle. People can come and go, enjoy the 2.6 kilometres. Or indeed can be part of their route to the ferry terminals for their onward travel across the Irish Sea.
Which is great. And you were telling me this is all reclaimed land as well.
It is, and it doesn't look like it's standing here, does it? It is a fantastic vista here, but everything east of the East Wall Road that the Dublin Port Company is built on is reclaimed land from previous decades. And this delivery here is part of our coastal defence work and our sort of protecting things for the future. And of course, we are in the very sensitive environmental area of Dublin Bay, so we have to look after it.
All right. You've been out for running it yourself?
Yeah, it's fantastic.
What do you do a 5K in?
About 21.
21? You're fast, right?
Yeah, we try our best.
I feel a bit of a race coming on, right? We'll be live at 8:45. Back to you guys in the studio. I better get my runners on.
Derek, you look like you've got the Snickers work trousers on. You going to put the hammer on instead of go for a run.
He's going to finish off the part up by Fairview that
turned his microphone off.
And that's what he's going to do. Thank you, Derek. Now it's time to take a look at this morning's papers. We're going to start with the Irish Times. Its headline, budget bonanza worth €2 billion planned for households. A bumper package aimed at helping households with the increased cost of living is being finalised by the government as it prepares a giveaway budget in advance of a general election.
The Irish Independent and the Examiner lead with the same story. The Examiner stating final talks over €2 billion cost of living aid. Across the board, social welfare increases of at least €10, 2 double child benefit payments before Christmas, and an extension of the Help to Buy scheme will form part of a bumper pre-election budget tomorrow.
Middle-income families to get €3,000 budget boost. One senior source close to the heart of final negotiations has said, our focus is on how many €1,000 we can put back into the pockets of Middle Ireland. That's the top story on the Daily Mail today.
The Star leads with "Nothing matters, Jerry, when you're free." A video of a jubilant Jerry the Monk Hutch singing about freedom has emerged as his arch rivals in the Kinnan cartel suffer blow after blow.
And we're sticking with the crime stories. The Sun's headline is Dublin's Fear City. It states that brazen dealers linked to the Hutch mob are flooding Dublin streets with heroin and cocaine in plain sight.
The Mirror's front page leads with McEntee home bomb threat. Justice Minister Helen McEntee has again been targeted in a hoax bomb threat.
The Herald goes with McEntee target of bomb threat. It continues to say Gardaí are working to establish the source of a phone call claiming a bomb had been placed at the home of Justice Minister Helen McEntee.
Yeah, that is a shocking story. I know Helen McEntee is bringing in tougher punishments on knife crime, which is fantastic to see as well. But on the front of the Examiner, the Times and the Irish Independent, it's all about this bumper budget that it looks like we're going to be going into. And Simon Harris looks like he's a pretty happy man at the minute.
Well,
doesn't
he is. Now, I think if you've had an agricultural show in Ireland over the last couple of weeks or any kind of an event in Elfesh, he's turned up at it.
Fair play to him.
He's getting out, he's meeting the people, and he popped into the Dungarvan show over the weekend.
Just popped in.
He popped in. And
he did more than pop in.
Was having
he auditioned for Dancing with the Stars.
Come on, let's have a look.
Let's have a look at
this.
Simon.
Here he is. Loving it. Look, do you know what? Could you have seen Leo doing that?
No. No. There wouldn't be many ministers that do that, to be fair to him. But maybe, listen, this is maybe what he's done. He's got to every corner of the country.
He went to the ploughing twice.
And he's not afraid to make a bit of a fool of himself while also talk about maybe some tougher issues.
And this is someone, and she is from, I don't know if they're a dance group, they're called the Dizzy Lizzies.
The Dizzy Lizzies.
Look
at him,
look at him go at the end. If you see this on the internet today, you will see the music is Maniac 2000 is what has been overlaid with it. But it's like, remember Theresa May when she tried to dance?
Oh, when she came... Oh, that's
He's got
better.
some moves.
It's the legs.
Better.
It's how long the legs are.
But you know what? You have to say fair play to him. He's getting out, he's meeting people, and there's the people who hate him now, be going, he's an out-lead.
Fair play. He's being human. We've all danced badly at a wedding.
So there you have it. Fair play to him getting out there and do that. Now, another one. What do you like for a takeaway pizza?
I see, I'm not mad on pizza.
Oh, really?
Play along, pretend
Right,
you
so
do.
if you're hungover, right, which you are
Chinese.
most weekends, right, Domino's pizza is the way to go. But it's not about the pizza, it's about the garlic and herb dip. A lot of people who are watching this say the garlic and herb dip. I mean, I could literally dunk anything into that. But word has it, Domino's are actually going to get rid of it. They're withdrawing the garlic and herb and honey and mustard dips over allergy concerns.
Derek, thank you for the very dramatic gasp over there. I mean, it's like we had a set. That was amazing.
So there's trace of peanuts were found in them, which means it's a health risk. They're having to recall. I mean, I would only get a Domino's just for the dip, but they're actually
Can they not
reclaiming
make it without the traces in it?
Well, they probably will, but it won't taste the same. Anyway, so
you just go. Make it without the traces of peanut.
If you go onto eBay at the moment and look for Domino's dip, it's literally, they are everywhere.
Yeah, €9,999.
Yeah, or else maybe just...
Doesn't that feel very safe, ordering Domino off eBay? I mean, no one's opened that up and scanned it.
A Duque, whoever that was, gets their $9,000 for that. Fair play to them, but it's an absolute scandal that it's back. But literally, these garlic and herb dips are going on eBay for at least €30.
So come here. They've been doing that for how many years? And now they're only realising that there might be peanuts in it. How many years have you been buying a pizza with the dip? Like, come on.
I
really don't like this.
I remember reading the back of a box of wine, a goon in Australia, and it said may contain horsehairs and fish eggs. And we were like, sorry, what?
You still bought it?
Oh, yes, we did. And we drank it. Anyway, coming up, Dubliner turned chaser Darragh Ennis tells us about his brand new book.
Yes, and we're going to be in the kitchen very shortly also. See you back here very cool in a couple minutes. Wow, We're back. I'm
ready
nervous.
to go. Bradley.
Our next guest is a biologist, a National Television Award winner, and now an author when he made his debut as The Chaser. It was the most watched episode of The Chase, with nearly 5 million people tuning in to watch a Dubliners. 5 million people watching us now this morning as well, because he's joined us.
We're delighted to be joined by Darragh the Menace Ennis. There he is. Look at that gorgeous hair. But before we chat with Darragh, let's take a look at him on the best quiz show in the world.
Welcome to the show, Darragh.
Thanks, Brad.
Where are you from?
I'm originally from Dublin, but I live in Oxford.
OK, and what do you do in Oxford?
I'm a scientist at the university.
Correct answer is... It is Ryland Clark-Veal. Well done.
With Darragh playing as he did, they were always going to win.
Who would you like to take on?
I'd like to take on Sean.
Bring on the Chaser. Ennis the Menace. How does it feel having been a contestant now actually being a chaser?
It's much nicer up here. The seats are more comfy. Option C is the hardest person to sing Happy Birthday to in the world.
Which Tudor monarch built St James's Palace?
Henry VIII.
Correct. Which writer created the character Inspector Morse?
Colin Dexter.
Correct.
Love it.
I feel like I should be having a cup of tea and it's 3 o'clock in the afternoon. Good morning, Darragh. How are you doing?
Yeah, I'm doing great, thanks.
It's so lovely to have you here. Look, the hair is getting longer. Look at this.
I know, but unfortunately we're recording soon, so it's going to have to be cut back to the shape. I like it long, but I'm not allowed to have it that way. So
hold on. So they want you to... Do they want you to have that shape?
It has to be consistent because the episodes don't go out in the air in the order they're recorded necessarily. So you don't want to have jarring sort of changes. So we all have to have a very certain hairstyle and a very certain look. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, now there you go.
And the necktie as well. That's your kind of signature, isn't it?
Oh, yeah. Well, I did tell them I'd wear a chicken suit as long as they gave me the job, so I can't really complain. They just,
so they put you in that?
I didn't even care.
I'd prefer the chicken suit. Only joking.
Yeah, there's a bit of the Mick Flavin to it, isn't there? It's great.
Did you have to, shadow any of the other chasers? Like, whenever you're a contestant, obviously you see them up the top. But like, is there work experience? Do you learn on the job in a job like that?
Yeah, so I spent a couple of years on my own sort of learning stuff, but then I shadowed Jenny on a show. And of course, Jenny took that opportunity for the first and only time that a chaser got every single question right.
Wow.
Okay, that's pretty impressive. That does put it up to you.
Yeah, so when I asked her for advice, she said, just do that.
No pressure. There are people who are really, really into the chase. Obviously, you have famously gone from contestant to chaser, which is loads of people want to do that jump. Are there people who kind of ask you, how did you do it? I want to do that.
Yeah, they do, but I didn't plan it at all. This is the thing. I didn't apply for the job. I never had any ambitions to be on TV. I wanted a door for my house. That was why I went on the show. I had no money. So, and they phoned me up and I thought it was my mates from home. I thought it was my mates from Rathcoole getting someone to call me up as a wind-up. So I almost hung up, So it's, it's not something that I planned at all.
What were you like in school? What were you like? Were you top of the class? Were you always this brain box? No.
No, I was always clever, but I was really lazy, like properly lazy. Because I was clever, I didn't really have to work, so I never did. So I drifted through school, and it wasn't really until I got to university that I really started working. So I missed my mocks to go to Cheltenham. I was not a good student at all.
Oh, wow.
You missed your mocks to go to Cheltenham?
Yeah, my Leaving Cert mocks, I didn't do them.
Sorry, what did your parents say to that?
Well, they were going with me, so they didn't really know.
Fair. It's all about life experiences at Cheltenham.
Yes, absolutely.
That's confident parents, though.
The Guinness tent.
Oh, my God.
No, I did go to school with Ruby and Ted Walsh, so, I wasn't the only one who missed their mocks. Ted did too.
Okay, well, they were probably a little bit busy, mind you, at that stage as well.
Yeah, they were working. I was betting, so yeah.
Did you have a big gambling thing going on in school if Ted Walsh was in school with you?
Yeah, we kind of did. We always we were always a big thing. Horses were always a big thing. Where I grew up in Rathcoole, it's just down the road from Goffs and stuff, so it was always a fairly big thing. Yeah.
Okay.
So for someone who wasn't always top of the class, you talk about a little bit about a lot of things, but you have some tricks that help you with your memory. What sort of tricks that I could maybe learn off you?
Yeah, you just make things sort of accessible and you make them fit in your head. So if you make things more interesting, they stick. If you're interested in something, like I'm really sure there's subjects that everybody has that they know top to bottom. So I was trying to learn the Scrabble letters the other day, and the 4-letter words are 4-letter ones that are worth 4 points, you know, trying to learn them. And they're FWHVY. And I just learned that 4-letter words, so 4 words, FW, are heavy. And now I will never, ever forget that. So it's 4 words heavy, and it's FWHVY. And things like that. Just make it interesting and make it stick.
Myself and Tommy.
I'm
We've
at
been
Cheltenham
up for a few
here.
hours. Like, 4 words, heavy.
FW. Say that again, sorry.
So if you're trying to learn which of the letters are worth 4 points in Scrabble. Yeah. So they're... and I've just told you a mnemonic for that. So if you say the words 4 words heavy and just get rid of all the vowels, so it's FWHVY. And because it's 4 and it's 4 is the number you have to remember, it helps you stick them together.
4 words heavy. 4 words heavy. He'll be off playing Scrabble now at 10 a.m. He's mad for it. Darragh, you know, we all know you from being on the telly and doing all that kind of stuff. But we want to talk, you're an author now.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Tell us about your new book.
Yeah, it's in the real world. I'm going to be very cheeky. I have one here. I always keep one beside me. There it is.
Well done.
Congratulations.
And the best thing about this book is it's a science book, but it's for normal people. It's not a big, thick textbook. And it's about the human body. And you know those conversations you have in the pub at closing time and you ask the big questions like, why do we get old? Why does that happen? Or why does our body sleep anyway? Because sleeping doesn't make any sense. It makes an animal really vulnerable, but all animals sleep. And I sort of go into those in really normal language to explain why these things happen in your body. And there's 10 of them. It's a nice, accessible book that tells you an awful lot that you probably should know that you don't about your own body.
Yeah. There's a really interesting bit in it as well, because Derek, our weatherman, is always out and about around the country doing challenges. And he was down at the Ploughing Championship 2 weeks ago, and they were doing Hang Tough, where they're holding a big challenge. So newborns, is this right? That they have a sort of grip that like doesn't let go?
Yeah. So if you want someone to win that, find a baby that's a couple of days old and they'll win it hands down.
How?
It goes away after a while, but it goes all the way back to when we were, you know, apes living in trees and the babies had to hang on to their mother's fur. So there's an instinct, a grip. I think it's the plantar reflex, and they just grab. So you can hold the baby off like a little rail or a thin thing, and they'll just hang their entire body weight off it, no problem. And it's a throwback to when we were living in trees.
I don't know whether we should be encouraging mums who are at home on maternity leave.
Under no circumstances should someone test
listen,
this.
It's called the Palmar grasp. So if the husband is looking at you, or the wife is looking at the husband saying, what are you doing? It's called the Palmar grasp, and it's science, and it's in the body.
It is, and it's just one of those things that never went away. So there's lots of those in our body, and things like some people can move their ears because back in the day you used to have ears like a dog, and you could move them around or like an ape. So some people can still wiggle theirs, and there's loads and loads of those.
I'm not even joking, Darragh. You've got him. His mouth is open. He's going, what? Yeah. He's in. He's going to be reading this book from top to toe. Is that something that because obviously you're still busy being a scientist as your day job. You are a quizzer yourself. Oh, you're not anymore?
No, I'm not. Really recently, that's ended, I'm afraid. So I had a very strange situation where I worked every single day for about 3 or 4 years. I pretty much took Christmas Day and a couple of others off because I was doing the chase and I was in my holidays. But my lab moved to Glasgow, so I am no longer getting paid to be a scientist. I'm a scientist in my head, but I don't do it for a job anymore.
Oh my God, how are you feeling about that?
A bit weird. So like I said, I worked non-stop and I was very used to going into the lab. And then all of a sudden, especially during the summer where we're not filming, I had loads of days off. I didn't know what to do, so I wrote a book.
Oh my God, good call.
As you do, fair play to you. And a pretty damn good book it is as well.
So the full-time job at the moment is the chase.
Wow.
Well, full-time's a very strong way of putting it. We only film like a few weeks a year. So yeah, I'm going back filming now. I'll be busy for the rest of this year and early in the spring, but then I'll have the summer off because Brad does other things in the summer. So yeah, I'm going to have lots and lots of months off. It's going to be very strange.
Sounds amazing. Will you enjoy it? I look forward to many more science books coming because of it as well. That's cool.
Yeah, there'll be a few more things now. A programme. Is that going to happen, Darragh?
I'd love to do a science programme. So if anybody is commissioning shows and they want to host, I'd love to do that because I think there's a bit of a gap, to be honest. There's not very many adult science programs. There's loads for kids because things like Tomorrow's World have gone, and Brian Cox hasn't made a show in years. You know, there's not very many of those. So I'd love to be that person if anybody's hiring.
Absolutely. And they won't even have to cut your hair either. There you go.
No.
Love it.
No.
And he brings his own mic. Look at that. I just see the mic popping up in the screen there.
I have a microphone on my laptop, but it's not working very well. So I thought I'd at least be able to hear you, because doing this by sign language wouldn't work.
Listen, Darragh, your new book, it is called The Body, 10 Things You Should Know by Darragh the Menace Ennis. Thank you so much for joining us, Darragh, and best of luck with the new science programme. There you go.
That's great. Thanks for having me on.
Thanks, Darragh. Lovely to have you on. Cheers. Thanks so much.
For staying with us now. Time for a dish with comfort food written all over it.
It looks delicious. Here with a harissa and pancetta gnocchi bake, it's Lara Battigelli. Good morning to you, Lara.
Hello, thanks for having me back.
Good to see you. No, it's great to have you with us.
This looks lovely.
So we're going for a bit of gnocchi, pancetta,
gnocchi,
nice. Yeah. This is perfect midweek meal, particularly with the bad weather coming in.
Yeah, it's absolutely perfect. It's like a hug in a bowl. It's cheesy, tomatoey. There's a bit of pancetta in there, some nice bacon flavour, and it's in just a really simple, quick tomato sauce. Like, you could actually not even bake it in the oven, and once the gnocchi floats to the top, you know, it's ready to go.
Okay.
And you can just stir in your pasta sauce, you know.
So obviously, you want to get pancetta, but if you only have bacon lardons or bacon whatever else,
would do guanciale. You want something with a bit of fat so that the fat can kind of render out, and you don't even need to add any extra oil. So I've given this bacon a little bit of a head start. So
is that because the fat, the oil
fat
comes
needs
off
to render,
the
because I'm
fat?
not going to add any extra then.
Okay,
so I'm going to chuck in my onion. I just use a small red onion. You could use shallot.
Yeah.
You could use a bit of a white onion. I find white onion a bit stronger, so I normally would use a shallot or a red onion.
Okay, very good.
That's basically the base of the sauce.
And you're just kind of browning those off a bit.
Browning them off, yeah. And then I don't know if you've ever cooked with gnocchi before.
I've never cooked gnocchi in my life.
So
have you not? No. Oh, I love a bit of gnocchi, but I never actually have it. Yeah,
so
it's very easy.
When I was in school, like, my friends used to love coming over to my house and having things like gnocchi, because they'd never heard of it. And sure, at home, like that, we always cooked with gnocchi. Yeah, in Cavan.
They don't hear of gnocchi in Cavan.
No, we do now.
Us in Monaghan now would be mad about the gnocchi, but Cavan be struggling.
But they're basically like little potato dumplings, and they're made with, like, sometimes they have egg in them, flour, leftover potato and salt, and they'll cook in about 2 minutes. You'll see them now floating up to the top, and that's how you know that they're ready. So
I think I must have got bad ones. I got some ones I just didn't like.
Would you? Oh, if I go to a restaurant, it's like it's a mixture between potato and pasta, isn't it?
Yeah,
it's weird.
and you kind of need to eat less of it because it's quite dense.
Oh, yeah.
It's almost like a dumpling kind of consistency.
Yeah.
So you eat, like, you know, you'd see your bowl of gnocchi and you're like, how is this going to fill me? But actually, it's quite heavy to eat, but I love it. It's really, really handy now.
That's sizzling away there. We can hear that sizzling away. So you don't want it up too much, is it?
Yeah, like, you just want to slowly cook that so that the fat kind of renders out and the bacon bits go kind of crispy. Obviously, we don't have the time for that today. So I'm going to chuck in some garlic and a little bit of chilli just for a bit of heat.
Lovely. Yeah.
And you're just going to cook that into it. So yeah, you won't want to be kissing anybody after this. The garlic.
Right. How many
put about
garlic
4 cloves of garlic in it.
Oh, you've put about 4 in, have you?
I'd only go a clove per person.
Ah, yeah, that's fair enough.
So it's not too bad when you break it down.
That adds all. Yeah, that's
and it's
the tasty
fresh,
bit.
It's fresh garlic there. I see that.
It is, yeah. But you could use the squeezy stuff, or I prefer the chopped stuff in the jar as opposed to the squeezy. And then my secret ingredient for this now is a little bit of harissa paste. So this is not like traditional Italian. It's actually a North African. I think it's a Tunisian spice.
And if you didn't have like harissa, if you were like trying to do this today, does it matter, or it's like you think it's essential ingredient?
If you add in chili, and then it has cumin seeds, coriander seeds, and caraway seeds.
Okay.
And then it's binded by like olive oil and stuff like that. So you could make it yourself if you didn't have it. But to be honest, I think, you know, a bit of sriracha, something with a bit of kick to it would kind of work.
Or even tomato paste, would that work?
Yeah, well, I'm going to add that as well.
Oh, you are doing
You want
that?
the bit of the smokiness from the toasted spices is what's in the harissa. And about 2 tablespoons of that.
So you wouldn't put in just chopped tomatoes into this?
They're also going in.
Oh, you're also going in.
Don't worry.
So you have a tin of chopped tomatoes as well?
A tin of chopped tomatoes as well, because that's going to... So you can see actually the gnocchi floating up to the top.
Does that mean that's done?
Yeah, yeah.
It's so handy,
I never knew
isn't
that.
it?
So that's me tin.
So if it floats to the top, it's done?
Yeah, that's it. And 2 minutes. Yeah.
And how...
Oh, look at that.
So you could eat them now just with the sauce, or are you going to add them in?
So I'm going to toss these into the sauce. So I'll turn them off the heat there because they're
going to be ready.
They're ready there. Okay. So they're ready to go, and I'm just going to bring this sauce up to temperature. And then normally when you're cooking with tomato, you'd add a bit of sugar just to bring out take away the acidity. Yeah. So for the harissa, honey is really nice with harissa. So I'm just going to add a little bit of honey.
Oh, lovely.
And that's pretty much the sauce is done. Like you would let that simmer away for about 10 more minutes.
Okay.
But for the essence
Isn't that
of
brilliant
time,
way with the gnocchi that you know it's done when it comes to the top?
Yeah, like it tells you when it's done.
Yeah. It's a tortellini, the pasta things, whatever
they float
you do that as well.
Sometimes,
yeah. And they're so quick and really filling as well.
Yeah.
And then when you stir all this in, is this done now, but you like to put it in the oven just to put a little crust on it or whatever, a bit of cheese on top,
But you could absolutely just toss this away like it is now and add a bit of Parmesan and away you go. If you wanted a super quick dinner like that, was basically ready in 7 minutes here, you know what I mean? So,
so I'm
going to stir that up together.
Look at that, move it all.
But I think it's one that I think kids like, especially if you could also leave out the harissa and just make a simple tomato sauce.
Yeah.
Kids don't like spicy food, but most kids like bacon, they like tomato pasta, and they like cheese.
And what kind of cheese do you put on top of it?
So I'm going to add in some mozzarella here. I just have a ball of the fresh mozzarella. You could get the grated mozzarella either. That actually has like less. I'm just tearing it up with my hands here. Okay. There's no need to be fancy.
And is mozzarella the one that you'd recommend for this?
I like it because it's a mild cheese, and I think you have enough spice and flavours going on in the harissa. But I mean, if you like cheddar, you could add cheddar.
As well. Yum.
And how long does it go into the oven for then?
Just like everything's cooked here, so you just literally need to wait for the cheese to melt to however.
So you're browning
you
it,
like
basically putting a nice top on it.
Pretty much. So I'm going to whack that in the oven there.
And would you put it in the oven or the grill to?
Either or. Like I sometimes, either or. It doesn't really matter. You just want to melt the cheese, basically.
Yeah. I suppose the grill would be good, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
Really get a nice topping on it.
So I'll give you yours here to try.
Oh, we're very excited with this, Lara. This is a great treat on a Monday morning.
Now.
Look at that.
Wow.
Just dig in.
You can dig in. There's a little spoon for you.
Thank you very much.
And I got some fresh bread from my local bakery, Picardy, Cavan Town.
Picardy in Cavan Town. There you go. Thank you very much, Picardy. Yeah. They do a good focaccia, do they?
They only do the focaccia on a Saturday, so...
Oh, really?
Only on a Saturday, so you have to get in.
Everything sells out very
Cavan Town.
Yeah.
I love gnocchi.
I love gnocchi. Tommy, the new ambassador for gnocchi.
I'll tell you what. Lara, this is beautiful. Thank you so much.
No problem.
How can people find you online?
So I'm on Lara's Bites on Instagram and TikTok.
There you go.
Oh, there's a bit of a kick to it.
There is, yeah.
Oh, thank you so much,
No problem.
Lara. Now, coming up, Darragh is at the newest Greenway to be opened in Ireland, and Ciara King reviews some of the latest book releases. See you in a few minutes.
The saying, sure, any port in a storm. That's what you are to me. Any port. That's what he is to me.
I'm here for you.
But there is one well worth visiting, particularly on a good day. It is the new Dublin Port Greenway.
Yeah, it looks fantastic, and Derek's been there all morning chatting with some of the new pedestrians and cyclists using the Greenway.
Derek, how are you getting on?
Yeah, guys, I can't believe I was in Istanbul in Turkey yesterday. It was 30 degrees, Michael.
Well, we have to get out in the weather here. We have to get used to it, get out and enjoy the day. Clear the head.
Absolutely. Lovely soft morning down here, and we're here to tie in fact with the brand new Greenway that's launched down here at Dublin Port. Michael McKenna is with us. Michael, a huge investment in the area, and it's great to see this part of the port now reopened for the first time to the public.
It is. This is a part of the port that people could never access before. The views behind me there of back to Clontarf and out to Dublin Bay are now available to everybody. So, you know, come down and enjoy the 2.6 kilometres down towards the ferry terminals and back again, and get out and enjoy it.
A lot of work went into this place to get it up and running, including you had to raise the ground, in fact, because this is all reclaimed land.
It is indeed reclaimed land here, and we had to protect the coastline, protect the foreshore here, coastal defence as such. And then there's an awful lot of planting has taken place and a high level of finish on all the furnishings, and at each of the discovery points, we're at one now, where you get these views, there's information boards, there's lighting, there's seating. So it's a great investment by the port into the local community and for the city.
This Michael area is quite an ecologically sensitive area because it's been designated UNESCO Biosphere Reserve.
It is indeed, and when the tide goes out here and we have the mudflats behind us, there's thousands and thousands of birds that feed there every day. And all those species, or an awful lot of those species, are protected under what's called the EU Habitats Directive. But it's our responsibility as the port here to look after all that, so that's what we're trying our best to do.
You're a harbour master as well as a keen runner, I believe, right?
Yeah, try and mix the two, yeah.
So what does it mean to you to have this part of the port now open to the public?
Listen, it's fantastic, even for the staff that work across the port. So of all the companies that are located down here in Dublin Port Company, there's about 3,000 to 4,000 people coming in and out of the port and working in offices or transport sector, and for them to have access to this on their lunch breaks or before to cycle into work. We've had cyclists flying past us here this morning, and people jogging into the offices, so that in itself, as well as others. We've the running club here, they organise local runs, so it's just all coming together.
And we were talking about it earlier on this morning. We are one of the only capitals in the world with a coastline that stretches the entire length of it.
It does, all the way from the Bailey Lighthouse up in Howth, all the way around to Dalkey Island, and it's beach all the way. And of course in the middle is that beautiful walk out to the Poolbeg Lighthouse, also along the Great South Wall, and you walk out into the centre of Dublin Bay almost. You get a great close-up view of the ships coming and going.
So how can people access it then? They come in through the East Point Business Park, is that correct?
That's right. So Alfie Byrne Road, which of course up in Clontarf, and in through the East Point Business Park, and you come straight onto the Greenway here, follow it down all the way to the ferry terminals, and you can exit onto the road system there if you're going to collect someone or whatever, or come back along again.
And this will connect you then all the way. So this wraps right around the bay and then connects you onto the Greenway that's already in existence there. In fact, on the other side from Clontarf right up to Howth.
Yeah, if you think of the promenade over at Clontarf there, the cycleway and pedestrian way all the way out to Howth, all the way out to Sutton, all the way up to Malahide, along the Baldoyle Road and up Portmarnock and Malahide. So it links in lots of directions, and in the future we're hoping to link further across to the south side, and eventually when all our works in the port are finished in the years to come, we hope it'll be up to 16 kilometres of greenway and cycleway.
Incredible. It's great to see, isn't it?
Yeah.
All right, we'll come back to you in a few moments' time because we're going to chat to Gil. Good morning to you, Gil, all the way from Clontarf Running Club.
Good morning, Derek.
Yeah, great to...
Beautiful morning here.
It is. Well, it's a soft morning, as we'd say, in this neck of the woods. Anyway, tell us about Clontarf Running Club. When did you set it up?
So, July 2017. The idea was to intermix foreign people and Irish together, all in come integrate together as a microcosmos or cosmopolitan here in Dublin. And I wanted to have a lot of young, old genders, different nationalities. And to this day, we're actually the largest, the most multinational running group in Ireland with 70 different nationalities.
70 different nationalities, which is incredible, really, right?
Amazing. It's the only place you can have Russian, Ukraine, Israeli, and Iranian people mixed together and go at it in a friendly way.
And not only that, you've lots of running activities, but you've also other activities outside the club as well.
That's correct, Derek. We have swimming, we have dancing, we have book club, long distance running and cycling.
Okay, so it's a great way for people to connect.
We have a lot of people connect, and over the years we actually have a few couples met up.
Oh really? A bit of love.
Yes.
which is great to see. Not you, Bernard. Bernard, you're a coach here, in fact.
I am, yes. Yeah, I'm in the club about 5 years, and it's been great. It's been great to get involved with people, different backgrounds, different nationalities. We meet twice a week, and then we meet on the weekends on Saturday mornings up in St Anne's Park.
And of course, Clontarf is a great place for running. In fact, you have the half marathon, the 5 mile as well.
That's right, yeah. We were one of the largest clubs represented at the race, and we've also represented at the Portmarnock beach race that was on a couple of weeks ago, and also the Galway. We did the Streets of Galway race where we literally took over Galway.
And when do you coach, by the way? So
we coach Mondays and Wednesdays at 7:30, just in Clontarf on the promenade, and everyone's able to come and join us. We're a great bunch of people, great bunch of lads and ladies that join up as well. So
yeah, and one of the ladies here is Lynn, and Lynn, all the way from?
I'm Chinese Australian. Actually.
Chinese Australian, and you're involved in the swimming, by the way.
Yeah, we love it. There's a group called Clontarf Dolphins, and we go out Dollymount, Portmarnock, Sutton every week before the swim, after swim.
Lynn also means pool Oscuelga.
I know.
There you go. You learned that this morning.
I'm in the right city.
So Lynn Snova, Reina, all the way from the Que Parte del Mundo,
Mexico.
The Mexico, and you love the running club.
Yeah, I do love the running club.
And how often are you training?
Yeah, I come like
every Monday and Wednesday and also Saturdays because I enjoy it too much.
You enjoy it. And Niall, pop over here to me. How long are you with the club, Niall?
2 years now, yeah.
2 years,
yeah.
Great. And you loving it as well?
Love it, absolutely love it. Yeah, no, it brings people together. That's the main thing about it. It's not competitive at all. It brings people together. You meet new friends, and yeah, it's.
I believe, Mike, there's a competition up and running as well.
There is, yeah. There's information available on our website. So we want clubs to come down and crank up the mileage on the Greenway here, and there's a prize in store for whichever club gets the most mileage. So it's dublinport.ie and our social.
Okay, that's on the website. Gil, I believe you have a little present for me before we go.
Yes, Derek.
Have a look here.
Our shirt.
Wow.
It's you see here Clontarf, and it's also, you see the colourful runners symbolise the 70 different nationalities. And look, their logo. Give all you got, run with your heart.
Okay, well, there we have it.
And we always like to say, for all the new joiners and beginners, we put the fun in the run.
Oh, we put the fun in the run. Well, let's put the fun in the run here this morning. Are you ready? 3, 2, 1, off we go. Back to you guys in the studio. Sloan.
Fair play.
Let's put
Off
the fun
he
in the run.
goes.
There, Derek.
What's the
Fair
fun
play
in the
to you.
run? What a great new facility for people all around Clontarf and Fairview and all around there.
It's fabulous. And he's
Great.
gone to all the other greenways. Like he's been the Limerick Greenway, Waterford
Yeah, he's
Greenway.
been
He's
all
fantastic.
over the country. Now, coming up in the next hour of IrelandAM, we're going to chat to I Am the One and Only. Guess who sang that? Chesney Hawkes did. We also get reviews on the latest hardbacks in our book club.
And here's another question for you. Are we washing our clothes too much? We're going to get top tips on how to keep your clothes fresh and in the best shape for longer. Anything else?
It's a busy old hour
Anything
coming
else
up.
for us,
You
love?
don't want to miss it. See you back here shortly.
Hello, welcome back to IrelandAM. Here's what we've got coming up in the final hour of this show.
Very shortly, our resident book reviewer, Ciara King, is going to be here at 9:20 with her latest recommendations. Some great books this week, including the most anticipated release for the bookshop since Harry Potter. Wonder what it is.
We're talking Sally
Wonder
Rooney,
what
guys.
it is.
I cannot
Giving it
wait.
away.
Now, one of the worst chores, apparently, is washing clothes. Do you hate putting on a wash? Yeah, it sounds
It's the
very
drying
annoying.
it more.
But are we washing clothes too often? So let us know, 0896 111 111. How many times, I've just had this conversation last week with my fella, how often do you wash your jeans?
Meant to be never.
Meant to be, how often do you wash your jeans?
Never.
How often does Lucy wash your jeans?
Every week. Only joking, only joking.
Okay,
Alan,
come on, send in the
what else have we
messages.
got?
Every week.
No, I'm only messing.
No.
I wish, no chance.
Now, he's not the same as all the rest because he is.
Your face.
Yes, the one and only Chesney Hawkes is going to be with us a little later on. Can't wait to talk to him and talk about his new single and, more importantly, his new video, which you do want to see. We're going to show a bit of that. Derek's in Dublin Port this morning. How are you getting on, Derek?
I am the one and only. Oh, we got lost in it here. Big fans of Chesney Hawkes here. Gil, we were talking about matchmaking earlier on. How many couples have you put together?
Six couples so far over the few years.
You're joking me, really?
No, seriously.
Including Bernard and Leah. I didn't know you were a couple. How long are you going out?
Oh my God.
Just over a year.
Just over a year. And you
Yeah.
met at the running club?
Running club,
We
yes.
met round running, yes. Yeah,
Okay.
yeah, yeah.
What's the most romantic thing he's done for you, Leah?
Wow, there's so
Wow.
many to choose from
We won't put you on the spot. Anyway, we'll have more here from the Dublin Port Greenway a little bit later on. But for now, can we see the Viking roar?
1, 2, 3.
Back to studio.
That's got a date written all over it. We have somebody in studio who's going to be down there very shortly.
Not even joking. Bury the lead.
Running as we speak now. Hello, you're very welcome back. Now, we were speaking about a number of different things this morning, but we've got a good message on this. We were speaking to Darragh the Menace Ennis from The Chase. Don't really watch The Chase that much, but anyway, listen.
I found the one person in Ireland that doesn't watch The Chase. Are you serious?
Oh,
it's on Virgin. 24 hours a day.
Virgin Media 2, The Chase.
Either side of IrelandAM. But he was talking, he's got this new book out, a science book. He was talking about this thing called the Palmer grip. So it's where you do hang tough, right? And you like hold on to like
Derek did it 2 weeks ago
with Mike Ross and Davy Fitz, and they both held on for like 30 or 40 seconds, whatever. But newborn babies have this muscle or whatever else that I think is like evolutionary back to like whenever we were monkeys, whatever else, and they can hold on for minutes solid. So if you have a newborn baby at home, and there's a bar or something get them to hold on to it. Yeah,
get a sweeping brush.
We have a lot of sleep-deprived new mums at home right now, and fathers.
Absolutely.
Who might be wanting
I want to check this, and I don't have a newborn.
So the child will hang on to it. It's just a natural instinct.
Their grip
on.
First 6 months of their lives.
So they will, if you sort of just take it up very lightly, the child will come up. No, but I'm saying, is that what he's saying?
And you know, if there's somebody else there, send a picture or a video of it. I would love to see it as well.
Don't do that. Please don't do that at home to your baby. Just saying, but lots of people are saying thank you to Darragh Ennis for explaining why their babies are gripping on so strong, like Bridget. I was listening to Darragh Ennis. I remember when my son was born, he was 24 hours old, and a nurse held him, and he grabbed onto her with such a strong grip. She thought he was magic, and now she's like, oh, it's what all babies can do. So thank you for explaining, Darrah.
And it's called the Palmer grip. Or grasp.
Yeah,
there you have it.
That's lovely.
Now, we were talking about washing your clothes as well, Muireann.
We are. There's
coming up a little later on.
Which report? We're overwashing our clothes in modern society. Apparently, we're all overwashing. You shouldn't be washing them after every single wear. We need to wash them less. So we want to ask you about your clothes washing habits. 0896 111 111. Do you wash after every single time that you wear, or what's the story?
We would
or
love
jeans
to hear
and stuff like that. You're never meant to wash jeans, and is that something that makes you go ew?
Now, ew. If you like books, though, and we have all the latest and a roundup of the latest. That's coming up after the break.
Welcome back now from captivating explorations of complex family relationships to a puzzling new murder mystery series. There are plenty of books to keep you entertained this month, and they're brilliant.
Well, you think they're brilliant. Here with some of her favourite recommendations is our book reviewer, Ciara King. Good morning to Ciara.
Hello.
Good morning.
And we are starting with Sally. She's in a look at
No,
her.
but this month,
Sally Rooney.
September is always a glorious month for books.
For book releases, because obviously it's the lead up to Christmas.
Yeah.
And I have to say, as the evenings, like it's just been raining an awful lot lately, and we've gone from a non-existent summer straight into winter, and these books have been a perfect company in the evening time to
So
read.
Sally Rooney, Intermezzo. Tell me about it.
Yeah, Sally Rooney, you mightn't have heard of her.
No,
She is an
there was
up-and-coming
massive
author.
excitement about this, wasn't there? Like she was just going to be, and she doesn't even have to do an interview, and everybody's just
so this is her fourth
mad
book, I
about
think.
it.
Yeah, this is her fourth book, and there is a lot of hype surrounding Sally Rooney, and that always makes me really nervous about any author, can I just say. But Intermezzo, I really enjoyed it. I feel like we've got a grown-up Sally Rooney in this particular book. It's about two brothers called Peter and Ivan, and they are grieving. They recently lost their dad. And there's an age gap between the brothers, and they can't communicate properly with each other, and they're involved in different relationships with women. Some are questionable. Ivan starts a relationship with an older woman, which I'll talk about that in a second, because she's not that old. And also Peter is involved in a kind of difficult situation with a college student called Naomi, and he's also still in love with his first love, Sylvia. There's not much of a plot in this book, actually, and pardon the pun, it's a lot to do with conversations with friends. There's a lot of dialogue, there's a lot of thought process, from the characters. Sally Rooney was reading Ulysses at the time, which would explain a lot of Peter's thought process in the book.
So Peter does stream
people who's not really into books, can we remind people who Sally Rooney is, though, and what she's done before? Because people will know maybe her other stuff.
Yeah. Well, people will definitely know her other stuff. People will know Conversations with Friends and Normal People, which is obviously turned into a massive TV show. And so I cannot. Hello, Beautiful
Hello,
World
Beautiful World
was her last book, I think,
which didn't do as well as an awful lot of people would have.
No,
thought.
it wasn't great. I didn't like it.
So the thing about the other two books is the characters in it are incredibly punchable, right? Conversations with friends
really
and normal
not
people.
likeable.
You're just but. And then they're just great books, I thought, but you wouldn't have been huge
I didn't
fans.
like Conversations with Friends.
Totally understand that, but again...
But I loved the TV show Normal People.
Yeah.
And I didn't like her last book, but this book I did like.
Okay.
So there has been an issue with Sally Rooney that everyone thinks that her books are autobiographical. No matter how many times she says, this is not about
so I
my
don't
life.
Get this. Like, are people asking Stephen King if his books are autobiographical? So what is it about Sally Rooney that people... I read an article recently where she was asked, again, is your life in these characters, whatever. And she was like, these are fictional characters. When did we start looking at the authors and going,
is this all about
you?
Yeah.
When did we start that? Like, we need to really relax
and
and
she
check
was saying
ourselves.
that she doesn't want this adapted for TV or screen.
Did she say that?
Yeah,
I actually think it would make a very good TV show.
It would be brilliant.
It would be a really good TV show.
So for some people, so she has started off, even though Margaret is one of the characters in this, that she says she started with the voice of Margaret, but it is two men that are Ivan and Peter.
Yeah.
So finally she can go, it's not autobiographical, there are men in it.
Yeah.
But Margaret is a character in this that you have something to say about?
Well, Ivan starts a relationship with Margaret. This is, spoiler alert, whatever. But Ivan is 22 years of age. And Margaret is seen as this woman that is way older. Margaret is 36 years of age in this book.
And is it mentioned that she's ancient in it or something like that?
She's Mrs. Robinson.
Kind of.
36.
Kind of. And I was like, come on, lads, we don't... She's 36.
36.
You know what I mean? So there is a little bit, I thought Peter is 32 in the book. I thought he came across older myself.
Way older.
But that's just, you know what I mean? That's just kind of my observations.
What are you making of Intermezzo?
I liked it. There was times when the dynamics between the siblings actually made me cry when I was reading it. It is not perfect, but I couldn't wait to get back to it every night to read it.
Oh, that's good.
Fantastic.
That's good, yeah.
The brand new one, Intermezzo from Sally Rooney, is out now. We are moving on to a titan of TV shows, quiz shows, podcasts and books. It is Mr. Richard Osman.
Yes.
Where does he get time?
Who knows?
Honestly, he got a lot of money, so he has to find time, my friend. Obviously people know Richard Osman. I'm a huge fan of him. Pointless. He presented Pointless for a really long time. I think he's still presenting it. And over the last couple of years, he wrote The Thursday Murder Club, which people absolutely and utterly loved. There's 4 books, I think.
There's 4 books. Steven Spielberg is the producer on the current movie, and it's being turned into a musical.
Yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
Yes.
Okay, I didn't realise that. Okay, I didn't realise there was a musical.
There's a lot happening in The Thursday Murder Club.
So Richard Osman...
But this is called We Solve Murders.
Yeah, so this is a new kind of chapter for him, and we've got new characters, and we've got Amy, who's a bodyguard, and she is looking after a world-famous author. And things go awry, and Amy gets put in line for all these murders, whatever. And herself and Rosie go on the run, and you've got her father-in-law, Steve, who's a retired cop, and he just wants to chill out at home and go to the local pub quiz, but he adores his daughter-in-law, Amy, so he gets involved on this kind of globe-trotting crime spree that they all go on. Ireland is also mentioned in the book as well.
I saw him being interviewed for this, and they were saying, did you go onto the locations? And he said, of course I did.
Yeah, and he loved Ireland, and he loved the reception that the Thursday Murder Club got in Ireland as well. So Dublin Airport's mentioned, and Cork.
Right.
There you go.
Wow. He really saw so much of Ireland.
He did,
as well as some exotic locations as well. Yeah.
And the beating heart of this book is the relationship between Steve, the retired cop, and his daughter-in-law, Amy. Because Amy grew up in Care, Steve has been recently widowed, and the two of them just really love each other without it kind of being said.
Okay, so when it comes to hanging over you one of the biggest Agatha Christie type murder mystery franchises in the Thursday Murder Club, how is he doing with a new...
Is it as big as Agatha Christie?
No, it's not.
Okay,
well, it's just bestseller. Like, genuinely, he's getting up there with the Bible.
It's funny. It's funny. My book club read the first of the Thursday Murder Clubs, and none of us liked it.
Yeah.
And then chatting to other people absolutely loved it.
So what are you making of this what could be a new series?
So I put aside my feelings about the Thursday Murder Club, and I read this, and I really enjoyed it. And I think it's because I like Richard Osman too. I think he's a good man.
Yeah.
And he makes some really interesting observations on influencers, for example, on people that end up on GB News over in the UK. And he has this very funny character. And I thought it's funny. I thought of Guy Ritchie and Jason Statham in my head. Max Highfield is the name of the character. He's an action actor. So he's got all these. He's got a savage eye, I think, and he writes about it in a very funny way as well. But I do like the dynamics between Amy and Steve, the daughter-in-law and the father-in-law.
Lovely. Cool. Okay, I'm just going to put this one out here because we've got a brand new with the proper cover on this one. This is Bella Mackey. What a way to go.
I absolutely
Tell us about
love
this book.
So it starts, and Anthony Wistron is celebrating his 60th birthday. He's a multi-millionaire. They have a huge house out in the country, darling. His wife has, there's no money has been spared in throwing this big lavish party. And anyway, Anthony ends up dead, right? Right. Okay, so again, this happens in the first chapter, not a huge spoiler. Yeah. So Anthony then goes to the afterlife, the in-between of the after, just after dying. Purgatory, there you go. And he's able to observe all of his family from where he is. And it's kind of Succession-y in that he's extremely rich, his wife is extremely cold and aloof, and they've got 4 children, Jemima, Freddie, Clara and Lyra, and they're all completely different characters, and they're all ridiculous, in so many different ways.
Yeah. So is he watching all the goings-on now after he's dead?
And he's trying to figure out what happened and how he died. And as the reader, you're trying to figure out, wait a second, what happened here? Was he murdered or was this an actual accident?
Yeah.
And then you've got, which, I mean, in these days, and I'm kind of getting a little bit sick of it, but it actually worked in this book. You've got the person who listens to crime podcasts and is online on crime websites and is kind of, trying to figure out... Trying to solve it. Who murdered this, extremely rich man as well. But it works. I like it. I like it in this. When I saw it in the book, I was like, oh my God, really?
But
are we not crime? Are we not up to here
with the crime podcast?
People who think they're detectives and they're not,
But as a conceit in this, it did work with it. What did you make of this?
I loved it. I loved it. There was a lot of the plots in this, so you kind of saw it coming. But then there was some moments where you went, oh my God, didn't see that coming at all. And I kind of loved that about it. But I like to be surprised by a book. I thought it was very funny. I thought it was a very funny take on that upper class English society. And I thought it was done very well. Yeah.
So 3 good reads here today.
I'm telling you, get into your pajamas, don't leave the house, hibernate. These are the books.
Honestly, so nice.
Ciara, thank you so much.
You're welcome, guys.
Thanks a million. She's like 400 pages each. Thanks, lads. Can I get some harder books next time?
I'm wrecked.
And coming up next, we're going to be talking to Chesney Hawkes about his brand new Saltburn inspired music video. Have you seen this?
No.
Oh, yeah. He's naked.
What?
Naked.
Full Saltburn.
Chesney Hawkes is naked.
Oh, my God.
That's all you need to know after the break.
I'm just going to put that in here.
Now, our next guest was catapulted to fame in 1991, crazy to think, so long ago, when at just the age of 19, he sang the one and only.
I Am. Now, over 30 years later, Chesney Hawkes is still making music. Before we speak to Chesney, good morning to you. There he is there. Let's have a look at the new single and, more importantly, the new video.
Don't tell me I know best. I'm not the same as all the rest. I am the one and only. Nobody I'd rather be. I am the one and only. You can't take that away from me. A company seats up to me. Change your mind. Fall in line. Get a hold of yourself. Give me your all. Don't let me fall. You decide. Amplify. Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of yourself. Get a hold of yourself.
Good morning, Chesney. Thank you for joining us. You're somewhere exotic this morning. Where are you?
Oh, I'm in Copenhagen at the moment.
Copenhagen. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, our editors here obviously were being very nice, and it's 9:30 in the morning. So part of your video there was when you had clothes on, because there's a lot of this video that you don't have clothes on.
Yes, I was very impressed with your editors there. I don't know how you managed to get that without showing any of my flesh, shall we say. Protecting my modesty.
You're not joking. I mean, you've literally copied the Barry Keoghan finishing sequence of the film Saltburn. You show a lot of cheek.
Yeah, it's a very cheeky video. Absolutely.
I mean, you didn't hold anything back. I mean, you are completely naked. Are you in this whole video?
Yeah. Oh, I was swinging in the wind, boys. That was... That was all me. Yes, absolutely.
So Chesney, come here. What made you decide that? Look, at the new single's coming out. So I have to make a video, something like this. This is a bit risky because this could have gone maybe one way or another, but it's after being so well received. And we had all our floor staff watching the video here this morning.
The biggest question I'm getting on this round of promo is, why?
Yes. Why? Well, tell us why.
I'll tell you why. Well, basically, the song itself is about kind of self-empowerment and self-expression. You get to a certain age, and I'm in my 50s now, and you just kind of feel like you've earned the right to be you. You know what I mean? So it's kind of like a freedom, really, and I wanted to, I wanted to kind of give that impression, and I wanted to do something bold with this single because of that, the meaning behind the song. And I saw that film, Barry Keoghan at the end, obviously dancing naked. He was fully swinging in the wind, as was I, but we edited those parts, shall we say.
Not completely.
Not completely.
As my wife would tell me.
Not if you go frame by frame. You might be able to catch a few little moments, shall we say.
Swinging in the wind, it was. What do your kids make of this? Because you have 3 kids, they're 23, 21 and 18. Their friends have now seen their friend's dad.
I mean, put it this way, I wouldn't have done this 10 years ago because I think that, the school playground would have been a cruel place for them to have seen this. But nowadays, they're older and, they're young adults now, and they're like, oh, it's just dad doing his thing. He's having a midlife crisis,
And I believe, Chrissy, your wife was, when you said it to her, she was going, do you know what? Go for it.
She did, yeah. She was very supportive of the whole thing, and it was my idea from the start, really. And we had other ideas come to us in the team, like we should do this, we should do that, but nothing really kind of matched up to just me getting my kit off, And I was like, guys, I think I just have to do it. I think I just have to get my kit off. So that's what we did.
And you sure did. You went for it. Fair play to you. That hat. Did you take the hat? For people who want to look at the video, there's a hat covering the bit of modesty. Was that your own, or did you actually put that back? Is that still in the house?
Is that a prop?
I wouldn't subject anyone to having to wear that hat after what I did with it.
Okay.
It's my own hat. It's my own hat.
It's a good holder, anyway.
Oh, boys, you're cracking me up here.
The video was shot in, people might recognise it, was Tom Selby's house in Peaky Blinders.
Yes,
So how did you manage to get that?
Well, I have a fantastic production company, Sitcom Soldiers, that were working with me on this project, and their offices are actually quite close to Arley Hall, where we filmed. So they've actually used it before in a shot. So they knew the people, and they just called up, and it happened to be free. So it was kind of meant to be for me, because as soon as I saw the pictures of that place, I was like, that is the place. Let's do it.
Let's do it.
It's absolutely, well, congratulations. The music video is very, very funny, and the new single is great as well. Get a hold of yourself. We have to ask you about the one and only. It's unbelievable. You were 19 when that came out. Whenever you say your kids are 23, 21 and 18, you are at the peak of your power at that stage. How do you think, do you look at them are they into music? Do you kind of think, what was my life like when I was their age?
Yeah, I often think that when they come home drunk and whatever. I was like, what were you doing when you were 18? They're just great kids. My kids are amazing. My eldest is an actor. He's 23. My girl, she's at St Andrews University studying animal behaviour. My youngest is 18, and he's my lead guitar player. So he's kind of following in the footsteps, as it were. He's an amazing talent.
And you're because your family, your father was in a band years and years ago, and is it your brother is your drummer as well, and always has been. So that music family now with you, that must be great when you're on the road, because you've always gigged. You've never stopped gigging in those 30 years.
No, that is true. And I took advice from a lot of my dad's friends. My dad was in a band called the Tremolos, so it all started with him. And I never, ever came off the road, as you said there, Con. So yeah, it does feel like a bit like the Partridge Family. There are times, there's a picture when my dad's not been well recently, but a couple of years ago, I filled in for him for the Tremolos. And there's a picture of me, my brother, my dad, and my son all on stage singing Silence is Golden, which was their biggest hit, which is still probably my favourite moment ever on a stage.
That's amazing. And the fact is now, Chesney, I think the problem now when you're touring, they'll be all shouting, "Get your kid off."
I've ruined it for myself.
A gig won't be complete until you do the full Monty now every night.
Oh, jeez.
Did you do
I might have to do that on my tour, actually. I'll bring the hat and I'll walk off stage for a Lady Gaga costume change and then just come on before I do the change.
Yeah, there you go. Grand finale.
The full Did you do much training for it? Because in your 50s, you're decent, Nick. Fair play.
Well, thanks for noticing there. Not really, to be quite honest with you. That's just me. I'm quite an active guy, but you know, I didn't train for it. I didn't want to make it like a kind of a Lenny Kravitz where he's got like the six-pack, and because I'm slightly dad bod, and I quite like that because I didn't want it to look like I was taking myself too seriously. It was I just want to just kind of be me. So that's what we ended up doing.
I mean, like you have been in the music industry, and it's like every artist when you're keeping there and you're keeping at it, it's like this now. Everybody's talking about Chesney Hawkes again, and it's brilliant. But like recently, then I loved it. And I was actually watching it on the Michael McIntyre show. The surprise that was. Tell us about that and what happened.
Yeah, that was amazing.
You were the star of the night, wasn't it? The surprise star.
It's called the Unexpected Star.
Yeah.
And I turned up with my manager to what I thought was the record company. They'd had something in the vault for me, which is that jacket that you can see there, actually. And basically, there's my wife there and my best mate. Basically, they all surprised me completely. I was total shock. I'm still in shock, and I still haven't forgiven Michael for that one.
Are
but
you
it was great
serious?
Fun.
You knew nothing about, like, you thought you were going to get a jacket?
Yeah, I didn't even know that. They said I had
the families,
Yeah, they said I had something to collect, and I didn't know it was the jacket. But yeah, total and utter shock. I mean, I don't know how they managed to keep that from me, because obviously that's a massive production. It was like apparently 3 months of organising, and my son there was on stage with my brother was on drums, my wife was in the crowd, my manager was there. I mean, they all managed to keep it from me. It was amazing.
That's unbelievable. Well, you picked up the guitar pretty quick. It's second nature.
Well, if I can't sing that song, at the last minute in my sleep, then something's wrong.
Oh,
tell us about the new single then. We're talking about the video, but tell us about the new single. Is there going to be an album? And then more importantly, are we going to see you on tour? Are you going to be in Ireland?
Oh, I really hope so, as far as coming to Ireland, yeah. There is an album included in this wider project. This is just the beginning, this single. I just wanted to kind of throw this one out there. So there'll be other singles and an album next year, and followed by a tour. So I really do hope I'll be coming to Ireland. That would be amazing.
Unbelievable. Well, we look forward to having you over here as well, Chesney. Such a laugh, and fair play to you.
Yeah, fair play to you, because everybody here all morning was just saying, that is just brilliant. You really have got on the crest of a wave at the moment, so thank you so much.
He's got some balls.
Oh, you saw them?
Literally. The new single is Get a Hold of Yourself, Chesney Hawkes, the one and only. Great to have you with us. Thanks so much.
Thank you.
Thanks for having me, guys. That was fun.
Cheers.
No, thank you so much to Chesney. Well, in that video, he wasn't overwashing anything. Should you be overwashing your clothes or less?
Yeah, we're going to get some top tips on clothes maintenance. Just don't wear them after the break. You're very welcome back now. A new report has found that some of us may be washing our clothes incorrectly, or could even be guilty of over-washing our clothes.
Joining us now to talk us through some of the tips and tricks for making your clothes last longer from Voice Ireland, which is an environmental charity, is Celine Shearer. Hello, Celine. Thank you so much for joining us.
Good morning.
So this is, lots of reports all the time. Which.com did a report. Are we all over-washing our clothes?
Yeah, I think it's kind of a societal thing because
we just have like very busy lives.
Yeah.
So, you know, at the end of the day, it's just really easy to just put on the wash and don't really think about, oh, have I already worn that? Could I wear it again? And also we do own a lot of clothes. So we don't really need to have that rotation in mind or anything. So we just put them and that's it.
Yeah.
Interesting going through here. So underwear, one wear. Bras, you should have 2 to 3 wears before washing. Is that not going to happen?
No, you probably should, but there's a lot of women don't wash their bras that often.
Jeans, 6 to 10. You were kind of saying should be doing about 10. T-shirts, 1 to 2. Sweatshirts, 5 to 6. So I would imagine, I know in our house, if you wear it, it gets thrown into the basket and everything gets lumped in together.
Yeah.
But we should really separate each item out.
Yeah, definitely. So anything that's really close to your body, you know, underwear, T-shirts, they get to be washed really quickly.
A little bit more often.
But anything that's like outer layers, knitwear, denim, doesn't need to be washed as often. Well, because they're usually more breathable materials as well, because they're made of cotton, wool, all of these things are very breathable, and thicker fabrics as well. So, you know, it doesn't retain odors that much. It's really just, if you can also like spot clean if you just have a little
But should we
stain.
not because it's bad for the environment, or is it bad for the clothes?
It's both both
Okay.
reasons. So it's bad for the environment because you are obviously using a lot of energy, a lot of water, putting chemicals into the water and releasing microplastic a lot of the time because our clothes are made of synthetic fibers most of the time. So that releases that. And
they're
it's
going into our
also-
waterways. They've found now that there's not one animal who's
Yeah.
in waterways around the world basically that don't have microfibers, microplastics inside them, and a lot of it
Every living
has to do with
organism
washing.
nowadays. That's really scary, and that's kind of a new topic as well. But even for your clothes itself, like it will damage the fibers inside if you wash them too often. The synthetic fibers don't handle high temperature well, so it's all also about keeping your clothes in good condition.
Let's look at some of the ways that we could be keeping our clothes clean but not having to put them through a full wash.
Yeah.
And you want to start a party on a Monday morning with a bunch of vodka.
Yes.
Is that it?
So what have you got
That's
here?
this one. Yeah, so it's a bottle spray where you just put half vodka, half water, and you just spray it either on your clothes or on your home.
Is it vodka?
It's half vodka, right? Yeah. And I smell great. What does it do?
Yeah, you just spray it, and then after like a minute, it just kind
I
of.
smell like I've been out in the town all weekend.
No, yeah, you can, but like, I mean, no, it
Does it not
doesn't
smell of vodka?
No,
No.
after like a minute, it just goes away, and it just neutralizes any other odor that was on you. So if you have a dog, if you smoke cigarettes or cigars, like that is really handy.
So half water, half vodka, and
Yeah.
that'll freshen up your clothes.
Yeah.
Get rid of all the smells. Wow.
And buy like a cheap vodka, cheapest vodka.
you
Lash,
don't
it doesn't
need
have to be
anything
good.
fancy.
So that's one
Very
thing. Sort out
interesting.
odour, and then if you've got kind of wool materials, hand knit stuff, that's great for it as well,
Yes,
isn't it?
yeah.
Lovely.
What about vinegar?
Vinegar.
So the vinegar is really just.
Do you want to try that one?
No.
No,
I
yeah.
wouldn't. It's really a must-have in your house for cleaning, all cleaning purposes, but clothes as well. Because when you have a stain, for example, you just use bicarbonate soda or baking soda, and you just put it on the stain, spray the vinegar, and it will do like little bubbles, and you let it sit for a little while. Put it in the wash after that, and your stain is gone.
And it doesn't wreck the material or anything?
Not at all, no. And actually, white vinegar actually makes a very good softener as well.
Okay.
So instead of buying...
And this is eco white vinegar, so obviously you don't want malt vinegar, but just any form of
any
white vinegar.
distilled white vinegar doesn't have to be like specifically
With
fancy,
bicarbonate
but-
soda?
Yeah.
They kind of, they sometimes
Very
the
good.
acids, they cancel each other out, so it's the bubbling thing that actually
Yeah.
helps with the stain, is it?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, gotcha.
Very
Now,
interesting.
sorry, what's this?
So this is a laundry egg. So it's actually quite new. I didn't know about it before last year, but it's basically all natural, like mineral pellets in there, and you just put it instead of detergent.
Okay, and what's all natural pellets? Where do you get those?
The first one is you get the
Comes
pellets
with it,
with,
right,
and then
yeah.
you get recharges.
Okay,
So it's really
brilliant.
handy.
So instead of using your like laundry
no more
detergent,
detergent. Yeah,
really?
no more laundry detergent. There's this thing.
Is it as
just-
good though?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think it's just a matter also of like we're kind of obsessed with like very fresh smells and like, but we've been marketed to like kind of want that.
Keep using it.
Whereas like it's actually very full of chemicals. Not really good for your skin.
Are these good for washing in? Should you be putting stuff in these?
Yeah. So I use those to put my delicate stuff. So either my underwear or very thin blouses, laces, things like that, and that kind of. Prevents it from ripping or frictions. Yeah.
Keeps lasting for long. Keeps them going for longer.
And you can actually find some on the market now that are specifically made for synthetic fibers so that it retains those microplastics.
The microplastics.
Yeah. So this really
That's actually a great idea. That's a very good idea.
There. Fair play.
So Len Shearer, thank you so much, Project Officer with The Voice Ireland. Thank you so much for coming in with all of these things. Thank you.
That's really, really interesting. Get the vinegar out. Coming up on tomorrow's show, we're going to be joined by David Gillick, the former European indoor champion.
We find out why Gen Z are refusing middle management positions and want alternative career paths.
And Tony Award-winning actress and co-founder of the Druid Theatre Company, Mary Mullen, will be joining us to talk about her new play.
Very good. Here, try that some of that vodka.
Stop.
That's the vinegar. See you tomorrow from 7.
Bye-bye.